James is actually one of my favorite books of the Bible for a lot of reasons. And one of them is I feel like James has got all these bite sized nuggets of wisdom that are easy to kind of chew on, take in, rather than some of the longer winded other books of the Bible that I find more difficult and more challenging. One of the things I like about James in chapter 1 is there are some really pertinent challenges that I've seen in my life. If you look at James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." Another translation says, "Count it pure joy." Well, it's kind of hard to get excited about this idea of joy because to me, joy tends to be let's throw a party, throw the confetti, have the cake, rah rah, have some fun. But that's not the kind of joy that this is talking about. It's a different kind of joy. And I've seen that in my own life. I think looking at that joy from a different perspective can make a huge difference in the midst of trials and suffering. Many people know my husband Jerry, and about 6 years ago, Jerry was diagnosed with cancer. And we went through the battle of one cancer diagnosis, then another cancer diagnosis, some heart attacks thrown in, some visits to the hospital for bladder cancer. I mean, it just snowballed. But God kept reminding me to count the joy. And I would have this ongoing wrestling match about, okay, well, how do I do that? What does that really mean? And if you're going to count it joy, that means you're paying attention to the things around you. You're paying attention to where you see God in that process. And so I actually started recording it. I kept a prayer journal and I would write down all those things that I could count as joy in the midst of suffering. It wasn't rah, 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 he's hurting. It was, wow, I see God in the midst of this. I see God's faithfulness even in the midst of the suffering. My family were recipients of the Journey Church coming and taking care of our leaves in our yard 2 different times. For those of you who've never been a part of that, you have no idea how much that meant to me. I hate doing the leaves. I really hate doing the leaves. It's not a fun thing. But to have Journey people be hands and feet of Christ to me was an incredible thing to put in my journal of I see God's presence and I can find joy in this, because I have a tangible thing of seeing God at work. And I think you have to look at even the little things to find joy in the suffering. Did the sun shine today? Well, then in Michigan, you better be excited about that, because, we don't get that a lot in the wintertime. Do you have food on the table? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have a doctor who understands? Whatever it is that's going on in your suffering, I could start looking at those from a different perspective rather than why us, or being angry, or just wallowing in how bad things were. Counting it joy meant changing my perspective in the process, and it changed my ability to endure the suffering. It didn't change the actual suffering. Jerry still suffered with cancer. Jerry still died because of the cancer. But we could count it all joy, all of my family, that he was in a better place now. He's not suffering. We know where he went, and he knew where he was going. And that gave him the ability to endure the suffering also. Chapter 4, verse 10 in James says, "Humble yourself before God, and he will lift you up." And you know what? I've seen that over and over and over again that God, who says, I'm with you in the suffering, you can count it all joy. You can see that there are good things still going on. And really, for me, the greatest joy is that season of my life caused me to grow. It caused me to grow in my faith. And I am only able to sit here and say these things based on the fact that God is so good. He is faithful in the suffering, and I can continue to count on that and count it joy. And I think that joy comes from knowing Him better.